Second. The steering committee is proposing a second motion as well for us to discuss here, and that is that Hillcrest should have more free parking and fewer meters. And that's the second motion. So there's two different motions that we have on the table. So the reason why we have this, I'm going to let these three individuals introduce themselves. They represent different expertise and have different experiences as it relates to parking and this community, from our parking district to a business representative to Leo Wilson, who is actually the chair of the Uptown Planners, as well as a resident of Bankers Hill.
Okay, first of all, I'll put on my Uptown Planners hat and say, Uptown Planners last year discussed the parking meters and removing the parking meters from Uptown, and there was a vote on it. I can't remember the exact number, but it was a vote not to take them out. It was fairly close. There was a motion passed that involved reforming Uptown Partnership, but that's not the issue that's before us. So I will say that is where the planning group came from. I'll put my own hat on and say, as a person, my biggest issue right now is outside of downtown. Uptown has the vast majority of parking meters in the city. I think downtown is something around 50%. We're like 30–40%, and then there's some in the mid-city area. So when you're looking at parking meters out of downtown, this is a special Uptown tax. And the concern I have, particularly if people are trying to say raise the rates, is, the people here, the businesses, everybody else are being affected. So if we're talking about parking meters, I think we need to either A, have a policy where they're spread throughout the city, or B, maybe we do need to revisit the issue of should we just have them in Uptown. Because, for example, a business here, if the rates went up to $2 or $3 an hour, I go to dinner in Uptown, if I'm parking, I'm paying $5–6 extra. I go to North Park, Old Town, other adjacent communities, I'm doing free parking. That's competitive disadvantage.
I'm the chair of the Hillcrest Parking Committee, as well as the vice president of the Hillcrest Business Association. I'm here only expressing my own opinion, not the opinions of those organizations. Neither of those organizations has taken a stance yet on free versus paid parking. One thing that I do want to start with, something that Leo mentioned, this is not a discussion about raising the rates. So let's discuss free versus paid and not talk about potentially $2 or $3 parking, because that's not really in the cards right now. We do have a parking problem in Hillcrest, as I think everybody here knows, and there's a real scarcity of spaces, and it's a problem for business owners, because people that are coming from outside the area that want to come to the businesses need to find parking, and requiring people to pay for that parking is one way to control it. If somebody has to pay for it, they're not going to be as likely to leave their car for as long in a space. They're going to do their business, and then they're going to get out, and that's going to keep the spaces turning over a lot quicker, and that's a good thing. The other thing is that in order to achieve a solution to the parking in Hillcrest, we're going to need to involve private lots as well as our public parking that we have available. And the private lots are not going to offer free parking. If we offer free parking on the street and you have to pay in the private lots, what's going to happen is that inequity is going to cause a lot fewer people to use the private parking lots, and it's going to cause those parking lots to go away and to be developed into more condos and other things that, even though we need that parking, people are going to be used to the free parking. They're going to continue to look for it. They're going to end up parking in the neighborhoods as opposed to parking in the paid parking lots. And lastly, by having meter revenue, it's something that, according to council policy, 45% of that meter revenue gets put back into the community, which we can then use to reinvest here locally and do projects with it. As an example, the Normal Street median was done out of money from that, and we are working, the Hillcrest Parking Committee is working with the Uptown Partnership to continue to add more parking in that area. We're looking at approximately between 70 and 90 additional spaces along Normal Street. All of that will be funded from parking meter revenue. There will be free spaces, by the way, those new spaces, because they're outside the business district. However, a lot of that, there's very few ways that the communities can raise money directly, and parking revenue is one way. And you see a lot of other neighborhoods that have used that parking revenue to do some really good projects, and I think it's something that we can do a lot more of in Hillcrest.
Director of Uptown Partnership, and our job under contract with the City of San Diego is to help the city manage the public parking, not the private parking that Nick was also referring to, and to make it more available to people in the neighborhoods. And both Leo and Nick have referred to some of the problems that come along with that and some of the issues that are raised. And I think that they're all great issues, and I'm glad to be here tonight. Sorry Dave Gatsky couldn't be here, however, I'm glad to be here tonight to talk with you about them. And just to give you perhaps a little bit of background, in the parking industry, the figure that the gurus of the industry go with in terms of the desirable amount of use that you want in your parking spaces is you want about 85% usage. That applies both to on-street parking and off-street lots. If there's about 85% of the spaces in use, in San Diego that translates about to one free space per block face. And if you're that person driving that car and you snag that one free space, you've made your day. And if you drive by a parking lot that has 15% of the spaces available, that's enough so that you can see, hey, there are some spaces in there and I can go in there and I can park. So that's the standard we're kind of looking at. It's not one we made up, it's been out there a long time. And the reason we want to use a standard of any kind is that we look at public parking as a public resource. It's something that belongs to all of us that should be managed for the benefit of everyone. And that raises questions like Leo raised of equity, and equity within a neighborhood or community, and also between neighborhoods and communities. And it raises some of the issues that Nick talked about for the businesses and for having turnover for the spaces that are near their place of business, so that somebody doesn't come and take a space for 6 or 7 hours when they could have had several customers during that time.
Okay, this is more of a comment than a question. I'm not sure that turnover is really such a good thing. And if we have a walkable neighborhood, we're trying to make it more walkable. If somebody goes to 3 different businesses in the area and they walk from one to the other, that may be more useful in every respect. I think the problem that I've seen in other places is where people come in, they're commuters, they park there to get downtown, but I don't think that's really the case in Hillcrest. Your comments?
Yeah, a lot of the businesses in Hillcrest rely on people from other neighborhoods coming into Hillcrest, and in order for that to be convenient for them, obviously the closer that the parking is to their storefront, the more likely that the people are going to come in and visit their business. And so I do think that turnover is an issue, but I do absolutely agree with you that we want to make Hillcrest more walkable and encourage that sort of thing, but we also need business from other neighborhoods coming in here, so those people will need parking, and it'll need to be convenient for them.
And I
Number one, that parking meters be removed from Hillcrest. Raise your hand. I'm going to be counting, so keep them up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. Okay? And I need a second from the floor to accept that, because that came from the steering committee. Okay, Neil seconded that motion. So all in favor of that motion, that we have more free parking and fewer meters, please raise your hand. More free parking. So let's, you can vote on both motions. You can vote on both of these, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,